you, baby. I love to love 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 you, baby. When you're laying so close to me, there's no place I'd rather you be.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Portrais, and I'm joined by Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, Batman.
Oh, yes, indeed. And for those of you that are listening, you're going, hey, man, where's that Sean Keenan guy? Sean is away at work right now. But, Bruce, I'm gonna be super vague about stuff because I don't know all the gritty details and everything. But I think it's awful suspicious that Sean is gone. But that's just me.
It is Veterans Day. Who makes you work on Veterans Day?
Yeah, hard criminals. Hard criminals,
Yeah.
I think. But we are here because, man, oh, man, we've got something to discuss. This is new. This is a new thing, a burgeoning technological... look, DC's trying to make some money, okay?
Yeah, they've got properties, and they say, hey, why don't we do this thing? We've had, Warner Brothers has had, you may not realize this, but Warner Brothers has had some success with their HBO streaming app.
HBO? Is this some sort of, I don't know what this is.
All the young kids are talking about it. It's
Oh.
some kind of movie theater in your phone or something. I don't know, but
These
I guess
kids
they-
and their newfangled stuff, I don't know.
I guess they thought, hey, if this HBO thing works, why not try a DC Universe thing? So we'll see. I'm a subscriber to DC Universe, and I kind of enjoy it.
Yeah, and we'll talk about some of the things that you get along with those and everything, because it's more than just a streaming service, which I find very, very interesting. But before we talk about that, I want to talk about the people that support this show over at patreon.com/HMP. Those people, they're just the loveliest, aren't they? They go
Absolutely.
through every single month, help support this show. They get the Dinger Zone episode where this week Bruce and I talked about what size gravy that you can possibly get. That's a big
Yes.
one. And Kingpin, Spider-Man, Venom, and comic book movies in general, man. And even the X-Men movies. We cover so much ground in like 20 minutes. It's really quality stuff. If you'd like to check that out at any level, again, for the rest of this year, if you were even at the $1 level, you will be able to get the Dinger Zone, plus be able, as always, to vote on a movie that we watch every single month. Still only one vote away from swinging the polls over there, man. They're going to be counting the Chads at the end of this one. So help us out, man. This show is value for value. We don't like to, if we can, I would put ads on, but no one wants to give me any money. So we are 100% listener supported by you guys. If you enjoyed this show, if you'd like to get a little bit of extra content and stuff as well, head on over to patreon.com/HMP. And again, test it out for the next 2 months at the $1 level. I mean, honestly, if you can't find a quarter a week just lying around the house somewhere, I think you need to start looking harder.
8 bits. That's all you're asking for. 8 bits.
Oh, yes. And Bruce is also from the Old West. But on today's program, everybody, we are going to be talking the first 2 episodes of Titans it's called DC Direct, right?
I think it's called DC
Universe
Online or something like that.
It's one of these things I don't like. First of all, they're not. You can tell this isn't Marvel because Marvel would have done the alliterative thing, right? I mean, if you look at Marvel over the years, you got Reed Richards, Sue Storm. There's so much alliteration in everything that they do over there. I'm surprised that DC hasn't gone, you know what, we're going to do this crap and call it DC Direct because you are directly getting all kinds of things, not just the actual show there, right?
DC Direct would be a good name. In fact, it's such a good name that I can't believe it doesn't already exist.
It's kind of silly.
But it's DC Universe, just simply called DC Universe.
So, unlike Netflix, when you subscribe to Netflix, you know what you get? Netflix. You get to stream some movies and TV shows, and that's it. But this DC Direct, I'm going to call it that. I don't care. DC Universe. You get a lot of stuff. Not only do you get their original programming, which this Titans thing, what are they up to? 6 episodes now?
I think 5.
5. By the time they hear this, it'll probably be 6. But not only do they have that, they have like older shows. They actually put out all the Batman the Animated Series. And by the way, here's the cool part. The Batman the Animated Series that they're streaming is all the new restored stuff. And it looks fantastic. And
in a weird sort of turnabout that you wouldn't expect, when they restore movies and animation for DC Universe, they're also going ahead and releasing that as a Blu-ray since they've already done the work. So now, even though, talk about something nobody asked for, they now have Supergirl, the movie, available on Blu-ray for the first time ever.
Ugh, get your wallets ready right now. Or you can just stream it for like $6 a month over there at the DC Universe and maybe. But I will say this, the coolest thing that I thought that they did with this as well, not only did they have all these cool streaming things from TV shows and movies and stuff like that, they also said, hey man, we're gonna do what Marvel's been doing for some time and give you comics to read as well. Now, you know about this more than I do. What's their? Yeah. How's the selection there? Because like I started looking for a couple things because I was like, I've never really read it, so I was like, man, I want to read Alan Moore's run on Swamp Thing. So they have that saga of the Swamp Thing. First of all, is that a good place for me to start?
Yeah, it's a great place to start. Okay, actually. Good. That's where I started with Swamp Thing and made it my favorite DC character for quite some time.
I've read a couple of just like I read some New 52 Swamp Thing and I enjoyed. That was like my first real like reading Swamp Thing books outside of watching the television show and all that kind of stuff. So that's a good place. They do
have a lot of like the selection is limited. Mm-hmm. It's not as wide as what you would get on Marvel Unlimited. But it's limited to sort of like you're probably going to be able to find the Judas Contract. Like you're going to be able to find really seminal Teen Titans, Marv Wolfman and Perez Teen Titans comics because they are putting up comics that kind of tie into the shows that they have. Mm-hmm. So I imagine we'll get a lot of Grant Morrison Doom Patrol when Doom Patrol comes out in the spring or whatever. And they kind of make suggestions to you based on what you're watching. Also, it's cool because they have like the Golden Age stuff that you're never going to be able to actually get one of those comics. So it's cool to read a digital copy of like, Detective Comics number 27 and Action Comics number 1 and stuff. But one thing I will say, usually when I watch the shows, I use my Apple TV and watch it on the television. Mm-hmm. But it's weird for me to read comics on the television. So I'll usually use the app in my
You can
phone
read the
iPad.
comics on the TV? I didn't do that. I didn't know that was an option for me to even do.
That's what I tried the very first day that I had it. I went on there and read some comics on the old big screen TV, but I'm just more comfortable reading those on my iPad.
That's what I did. I was just like, well, obviously the iPad's the place that you're going to read these things. I never, like the thought of reading the comics on the television never even crossed my mind as a thing that was possible, but
it is possible.
I've got to at least try it now to say that I've done it and be like, this is weird. It was like when the Xbox, they came out, they're like, hey, we've got like Facebook and Twitter on Xbox now. I'm like, this is not the place for that. And of course they took it off because they realized no one does this.
Oh man, I'm old enough to remember when a legitimate alternative to AOL for your internet service was Web TV.
Oh, the Web TV. Oh, yeah.
But then people realized, you know what? I like to watch TV while browsing the web, so that just didn't work.
Well, yeah. Well, and of course, it was still dial-up age mostly, and it wasn't meant to be over there. And then when they had the other stuff, they were like, you know what? No one wants this. No one wants to have a keyboard as their remote control for their television.
Not at all.
This seemed like a good idea at the time, but in execution, maybe not so much.
Maybe not.
But we're going to see today if DC is executed in their attempt to give us original programming. Here is the trailer for just Titans. Gee whiz.
Who are you?
Everything led me here. To you. You're the boy from the circus.
You got no place to hide. And I'm feeling like a villain, got a hunger inside. Nowhere to hide from all of this.
Please, can you help me?
Madness, madness.
Where's Batman? Batman.
There's something evil inside of me.
There's scared, I get it. But you can control it. You don't know what I've become.
Sometimes, when I feel the darkness, it feels good. My mom says there's no such thing as monsters.
I used to think that. I was wrong.
Madness, madness.
All right, everybody, that was the trailer for Titans. We're going to be reviewing the first 2 episodes here on DC Universe. I got it right that time. Here's the IMDb plotline. As we know, IMDb always 100% correct in everything they say and or do. A team of young superheroes led by Nightwing, formerly Batman's... First of all, this is clearly not right, unless you know something further down the road than I do, Bruce. Formerly Batman's first Robin, formed to combat evil and other perils. This is written by Greg Berlanti, so he's one of the cats involved in this, and it's starring a bunch of kids you've never heard of.
Yep.
Bruce, we've talked to this kind of stuff a lot, and I don't know how you do it, but we're gonna give you a shot. What do you say?
It's time for Bruce's comic book connection.
All right, what do we got this week?
Raven is the half-human, half-demon daughter of interdimensional demon Trigon.
That old story.
And Raven was conceived as the result of Trigon's marriage to the human Arella. Now, Raven grew up in an alternate dimension called Azarath, not to be confused with my Warcraft-loving friends Azeroth.
See, I knew that. I knew that. I get points.
Well, she grew up in Azarath. But she was taught to control her emotions by Azar, like the sort of guru/leader of Azarath, in order to suppress her inherited demonic powers, because initially it was feared that if Raven were ever to feel any strong emotion, she could then become possessed by her father's evil demonic energy that lives inside of her. As a teen, Raven met her father face to face for the first time, and he threatened to come to Earth, which is something Raven didn't want. So she approached the Justice League to ask for help. Zatanna could sense the danger surrounding the girl, but the rest of the Justice League was disinterested. In desperation, she reformed the Teen Titans as the new Teen Titans to fight her father. The original team consisted of Robin, Kid Flash, Wonder Girl, Starfire, Cyborg, and Beast Boy. Raven and her new friends later came to think of one another as a family, and the Titans defeated Trigon and sealed him in an interdimensional prison. But Trigon continued to try and use his link with Raven as a means of escape. Raven lost control several times in stressful situations, but managed to regain control before Trigon could assert himself. Eventually, Trigon did escape his prison. He came to Earth and took control of Raven, and the Titans were manipulated into killing Raven, thereby allowing the souls of Azarath contained inside the Ring of Azar to possess her and use her as a channel to kill Trigon. After this battle, Raven rose from the ashes, purged of Trigon's evil, and vanished. Raven's mother searched the world over to find her demi-demonic daughter, and once she found Raven, they were both kidnapped by Brother Blood, but thankfully the Titans came to their rescue. Raven was later kidnapped by the Wildebeest Society, which really sounds like something that the Mutual of Omaha would support.
Heck yeah.
And a massive battle ensued. During the battle, Raven was possessed by a bunch of evil souls, and then her body was destroyed, but an evil Raven was left behind. Evil Raven proceeded to try and plant seeds of Trigon into people's bodies, and right after Nightwing and Starfire got married, Evil Raven put a demon seed into Starfire. But through a clever twist, it wasn't a demon seed. It actually turned out that Evil Raven implanted the soul of Good Raven inside Starfire. And thanks to the Titans, Evil Raven was reduced to ashes, And the good part of Raven was given a new golden spirit body, which was completely free of her father's demonic influence. While the spirit of Raven was looking for her place in the world, Brother Blood showed up again, and he came to claim her. Her spirit was put in the body of a teenage girl by the Church of Blood, and the Teen Titans reformed yet again and discovered that the Church of Blood were worshippers of Trigon. They also found a prophecy which told of the marriage between Brother Blood and Raven that would result in Armageddon. So the new team interrupted this would-be Armageddon-giving wedding, and Raven forced the cult to escape from the control of Brother Blood. She then joined the new Teen Titans and enrolled at a high school as Rachel Roth in a new, younger body than she had before. And she used her mother's original last name, Roth. So that is how Raven got to the point of being a young teen known as Rachel Roth, like we see in Titans. I guess we'll have to watch patiently to see how much of her backstory will be told. But, if this Comic Connection has told you anything, it should have told you that a whole lot should have happened before where we are when the show starts.
Hey man, why sully yourself with actual whatnots?
Whatnots and who's it's.
No, thank you. So again, we'll be talking about the first 2 episodes. So spoiler for all of those. I haven't seen anything past those first 2. We may go to Bruce for a little bit of maybe should we keep going with this at all? I don't know, but we'll get to that. But this show starts out, man. The cold open and the first music that you hear in the program is something that it's not this, but it's very similar to this, and it's the first thing that I thought was coming out. And I was very confused. I'm like, wait a minute. Are we listening to Three Dog Night? What is this? So we get circus music right off the top.
Yeah, exactly, man. And we open up with the story of Dick Grayson and the Flying Graysons, and we later find out that this is some kind of prophetic dream, I guess, that Raven is having. Like, I still don't know what's so important about Dick Grayson that Raven would dream about him.
He's dreamy. Hello.
I guess, man. But yeah, and I don't know, man. I want to start off by saying that out of all the actors that we see in these first 2 episodes and all the characters, I think Tegan Croft, she's only 14 when they started filming. I don't know if she was maybe 15 by now, but I think Tegan Croft as Raven is probably the best actor/character combo I've seen in these first 2 episodes. I really like her more than I like some of the other folks in the show.
And we'll talk about why we may not like those characters as well. But yeah, so, and I like this. This, like, the first opening scene and everything really kind of tells you a lot about what this show is going to be. Because in lights right behind this, trapeze act and everything, as we know the Flying Graysons are known to do, just before the actual event, happens, the word flying disappears. It kind of shorts out from the sign, so it's just the Graysons. So,
yeah,
they're not flying so much. Super cheesy with that. I
think I totally missed that heavy-handed little move there. But now that you pointed out, I see what you're saying.
So yeah, it was just, it seemed a little ham-fisted there. So the girl that is walking through this circus screams, she wakes up, and we find out there's crosses on the door. My guess was, I'm like, okay, this has got to be Raven here. Boom, title sequence. And then we're off and running, man. And
I don't know, I think we don't go very far in that first episode before we get like Robin doing some street level vigilante justice, do we?
No, it's not long at all. But now I want to start with this because this is a consistent theme throughout these 2 episodes, and I'm sure throughout the television show as well. And it's done something that I don't think we've seen DC really do before, unless, again, I want you to correct me if I'm wrong here. But we are getting title cards for cities that are real cities. We go, like, our first city is Detroit. We're going to Detroit. Like, what?
And Detroit's an important city for DC Comics. The Justice League actually had their headquarters in Detroit for a little while when they had like this odd Justice League that was led by Martian Manhunter, I think. But Jump City is kind of the classic home of the Titans. Bloodhaven is the town that Nightwing went to when he parted ways with Gotham and Batman. But yeah, setting it in Detroit, I don't know why they decided to do that, because I don't necessarily link it real strongly with these characters. But Detroit, of the real cities, New York is the city that all the Marvel Comics stories seem to take place in.
Mm-hmm.
The only real city that DC's ever used in the comics that springs to mind for me is Detroit.
Okay. But we go outside of there, and we'll certainly get to that. But it just struck me as odd that's like, oh, it's a real city. Are we supposed to? Oh, all right, well, fine.
I don't know if it's related or not, but it also is Jeff Johns' hometown is Detroit.
Oh, well, there you go. Ah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Now, they have a quick little mention in here about the Joker. So we do know that the Joker exists in this world. And that's always one thing that you have to worry about, I guess, or at least, be cognizant of in one way, shape, or form, is what where this stands in the pantheon of all the other, DC stuff.
Well, one thing I will tell you, not only does we know Batman exists in this world because he gets name dropped.
Yes.
And the Joker gets name dropped. But I will tell you that if you look at their casting announcements, they did announce someone in the role of Jason Todd, too. So who knows?
Yeah, I heard about that. So, again, there's elements of I'm not tipping my hat or anything, but there's elements of this that make me kind of like that you hear about things like that where I'm like, maybe this might be, who knows? Who knows where they're going with this thing?
And I like the actress that plays Raven. I think it's interesting that she doesn't understand her powers. Maybe as we talk a little bit more, I'll say how I don't think that the people making this show really know what they want to do with their powers. Doesn't really line up with either the animated or the comic book version of Raven very well. But we can talk about that some more. I'm eager to start talking about Dick Grayson because I really think Dick, even though Raven is the centerpiece, and this is Raven's story, I think there's so much to say about Dick Grayson, both good and bad. Okay. Maybe not even good.
Yeah, I've got a lot of thoughts on him. But the bit that we see, though, is within that fight and stuff, you really get that sense of like, hey, here's what they're going for in this show. And
so we're talking about the initial Dick Grayson fight as Robin.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he drops down in the street, and I think he's already moved to Detroit at this point, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Because the people are surprised to see Robin in there, and then they say some things like, uh-oh, that means Batman's going to be here soon. You better be careful, be on the lookout.
I dug that because everybody was looking around for Batman, and I thought that was a really cool thing, and I thought it spoke a lot about, how Robin could feel in that situation. It's just like, oh, well, he literally is the boy wonder, so we ain't got to worry about that. Where's the big baddie coming from? And Jason Todd, but Dick Grayson does not want none of that, man. He's all like,
and
I'm getting in there.
I think this is interesting. I mean, it's definitely given us what we need because he does have to become Nightwing by the end of the season. Teen Titans, the new Teen Titans comics with Wolfman and Perez are when Dick Grayson finally gave up Robin to become Nightwing. Mm-hmm. But they're wanting to show that he's having some growing pains or that he's outgrowing the sidekick role. He's outgrowing Batman's shadow. But I don't think they had to turn him into the Punisher. Because there's some pretty morbid stuff that he does.
Gruesome stuff. Like it's just like, I mean, not just like, oh, he's batting around some people and really doing some hard punches. We're talking straight up murder.
I mean, there's one role. There's one scene or one little maneuver where the windshield has been broken in the car and there's just like shards of glass in the door jamb. Mm-hmm. Where the windshield should be rolling up out of the door. And he grabs the guy's face and just grinds it against the shards of broken glass.
And then there's a brick wall where somebody's face just gets dragged along that, leaving a giant bloody streak. This whole thing, especially with this being the opening fight sequence and everything, it is really them laying it out on the table and going, this is what we're doing right now.
And I'm going to tell you why that bothers me a little bit. Mm-hmm. I understand that Dick Grayson needs to grow up, but a big part of why Dick Grayson grows apart from Batman is that he doesn't have that sadistic side. And I think the comic book story that illustrates perfectly how I think about Dick Grayson is it's after the Nightfall, maybe during the battle for the Cowl, but when Bruce Wayne is incapacitated and Dick Grayson becomes Batman, which happened for a while in the comics, mm-hmm. Two-Face is looking at some video footage, and he glances at it and he goes, wait, that's not Batman. And then, like they do the zoom in and enhance maneuver or something like that. He goes, that's definitely not Batman. And then one of his henchmen or whoever's with him says, how do you know that's not Batman? And he goes, because he's smiling. Batman never smiles. But Dick Grayson does smile. Dick Grayson, out of the whole DC universe, Dick Grayson is the one, like to me, even like Superman, the big blue Boy Scout, they've worked so hard to make him edgy so many times, but like Dick Grayson is the beacon of hope in the DC universe. And to have Dick Grayson behaving like this is how Jason Todd behaved.
Exactly. Thank you. All right. I guess I didn't put that together, but you're absolutely correct. That is more Jason Todd than it is Dick Grayson. Good. Very
and Jason
good point.
Todd, they do turn Jason Todd into the Punisher. I mean, the Red Hood is basically DC's Punisher.
Oh yeah.
But they're like making Dick Grayson into the Punisher. And then the whole thing that they just played the heck out of at San Diego Comic-Con this year, but the whole F Batman moment is just gratuitous. I mean, it's just on there. It's like being edgy for it. It really seems like something that would have been done in the 90s when people were trying to make things edgy just to be edgy.
Oh yeah. It's like, oh, we're going to bring out this rated R thing and it's going to be so metal and all the kids are going to just, like, no, man, it's this whole, there's a lot of this and it'll be coming up many a time in this, throughout this review. It all seems so try hard.
Yeah, man, it's like they're being mature. They're using mature language more than the story needs. They're throwing in curses that you couldn't show on broadcast TV just because they can. It sort of feels like when a couple of mainstream radio hosts first went to like Sirius and XM, and suddenly they didn't have to worry about the FCC, and they went a little overboard in the first few weeks and then calmed down a little bit. You know what I'm talking about? That kind of thing.
I mean, Stern was like that. When Stern went over to Sirius and everything, people were like, oh boy, that's a bit much.
And even more than Stern, probably some of the other people that went around about that time, like Bubba the Love Sponge, Opie and Anthony, I think they went overboard more than even he did. But anyway, that's a really weird sidetrack. But I just feel like, wow, they're just doing this because it's like they're so paranoid that people are going to think this is Teen Titans Go, or they're going to think this is like animated Teen Titans in live action. Or they're, God forbid, they even think it's The Flash, a wildly successful broadcast show also produced by Greg Berlanti. They just go a little too far. Almost like Berlanti wants to show how far he can go. I don't know whose decision it is, whose call it is, but it just feels like unnecessarily stuck on profanity.
The way that it does this, though, it feels like they're marketing this entire thing to middle schoolers. Because you remember, like, when you went to middle school for the first time, and in like sixth grade, people started dropping, all the bombs, and you're just like, oh my gosh, people are doing this? This is what middle school's like? Wow. And then when it was okay to do it, boy, you let your freak flag fly, and you were dropping everything there. And that's why I think South Park is so apt. It's just like, when kids learn that, they just never stop doing it for a good portion, and then it's like eventually they lose all their meaning.
They're trying too hard to be TVMA, and I understand maybe they're thinking this is going to be their answer to the Marvel Netflix shows, but even the Marvel Netflix shows, their TVMA has more to do with brutality that makes sense, like this brutality of just staging a shot of Dick Grayson rubbing a guy's face in broken glass. It feels inorganic. It feels unnecessary. As much as I complain about not having the stomach to enjoy the gratuitous violence in The Punisher, it sort of made sense, though. You know what I mean? It fit the story. This really feels like gratuitous. Like, okay, we've got to do what they're doing on Netflix here.
Yeah, and I don't know if they're going to explore what led him to this particular, bent, if you will. But right now, it's not doing it for me, and it feels very off and very strange.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I agree with you. But that's the biggest thing I wanted to point out is I'm having a little bit of trouble dealing with this Dick Grayson because it's so different than my mental image of Dick Grayson and what my expectations are of Dick Grayson. And I'm sure people can point out comics from the 90s, like especially like 93, 94, when Image is hitting and every comic's trying to give it their R-rated comic. People can probably point out examples in the comics where Dick Grayson behaved that way, but that's still just not my image of Dick Grayson.
Yeah, I completely agree. So all of a sudden, after this scene, we jump into one could I don't know if I ever remember seeing a card. Are they in Germany when this happens?
What's happening in Germany?
With the Starfire stuff? That's all.
I thought they were in Russia.
I thought they were all speaking German. Sounded like German to me.
Well, Konstantin Kovar is a Russian gangster.
All right, then maybe I just don't know the difference between the two.
Yeah, so maybe they're in somewhere in Eastern Europe. I don't think they're in Germany, but what do I know? They probably filmed it in Central Georgia or something. But
That's how
anyway,
things tend to go.
but I just assumed they were in Russia because Konstantin Kovar was in it. But they could be speaking German, I don't know.
Oh, wait a minute. No, so I wrote down here Russia. Yes, this is exactly what I wrote. Russians in tracksuits, dead on.
And Konstantin Kovar was portrayed by Dolph Lundgren in Arrow last season. So when I first hear them name drop Kovar, I'm really, really wanting Dolph Lundgren to show up, but he doesn't. Because I thought, well, this is still the Berlanti universe. Maybe they're going to just give us a little hints that it all coexists. But either they chicken out or they didn't have Lundgren money.
Can't have that thick Lundgren money that's got to be lying around, man. So he wakes up as like as a passenger in that bloody car accident. Then all these guys are going after her, trying to shoot her and stuff. And she has no idea who she is, where she's going, what she's doing. And when she finally gets to her hotel room, there's like a dude that's locked up in her room. And I'm at least
and
glad
there's a
she
picture of
speaks German.
Raven in that hotel room.
Oh, is there? Maybe I missed it.
Yeah, she gets the picture of Raven. Like, she freaks out and goes on fire and kills everyone.
Yeah.
For some reason, she incinerates more or less everything in the room, but the one thing she doesn't burn is this picture of Rachel Roth, a.k.a. Raven. So she has this picture in her hand. She doesn't know why or who this person is, but she knows she needs to find this person is kind of what we're supposed to infer. And that becomes a little more clear in episodes 3 and 4. It's not as clear in the first 2 episodes what's going on here, but that is how Starfire somehow manages to leave wherever she is in Central or Eastern Europe to come to the U.S. to meet up with the other characters, because we know, of course, that she's got to be part of the team.
Now, let me ask you this. If you wake up, you don't know who you are, you don't know anything about nothing, there's a guy up in your hotel room, are you going to be super nonchalant about killing him? I feel like you
I don't know, man. Maybe that's your brother. Maybe that's your dad. Maybe it's your cousin. You don't know who this is. It's scary to go right up and kill him.
She was just like, well, looks like I'm going to have to kill this dude, and he just dies. And I'm just like, that seemed really, really fast and like super, you just leaned right on into that killing stuff. I feel we have to be talked into killing somebody.
And in both the comics and the cartoons, Starfire has a certain good-natured naivete.
Yeah.
Now, that's totally missing here. This person who doesn't know who she is or remember anything about herself seems awfully street savvy and streetwise, and that sort of undoes one of the more fun quirks of Starfire.
Yeah. So, here's one of the problems with this show is that they're going in so many different places, like literal locations. They're location hopping all over the place, and it does not help the narrative, in my opinion. I get lost and go like, where are we? How did you get there? Why would you go there? Everything seems a little bit convoluted when it comes to just jumping back and forth between locations.
And honestly, as somebody who's watched all the episodes so far, and I watch them when they come out, it takes it till episode 4 to start to come together a little bit. Yeah, they are trying to do, and I love stories about getting the band together. I love the putting the band together stories. They're not doing a good job of it here, because this should be the most fun I'm having in this show, and I'm not. Like, I almost think they needed to. Well, I mean, they did kind of stick to 3 characters, but maybe the first episode should have just been Raven, and then have her meet Dick Grayson. Then the next episode could just be about Dick Grayson. The next episode could kind of be how Starfire comes into the fold. The way that. Man, I hate to keep referencing Netflix, but like how they'll have one story that focused on Karen Page's background in this most recent season. They'll have a story that focuses kind of on the background of one of the villains whose name even saying might be a spoiler at this point.
Yeah.
But they have a way of doing that, getting the band together thing a little bit better there than what I'm seeing here.
Yeah, it seems like they're just kind of going, well, but it also makes it seem like it's trying to be more kind of, even though they're staying in this, mostly in the States, globe hopping to where it's like, oh, now we're in this location, now we're in this location, almost to make it seem as if you were, doing more, production work than you're actually doing.
And it's, to be honest, knowing where the show ends up going, it's kind of needless. They could have just as easily had Starfire land in Michigan, but I think, or have Starfire's story start in Michigan, I should say. But I think somebody said, what are the chances that all these people are just going to be in the same place at the same time? We got to put one of them on the other side of the world, so they do that and then have her come to the place she needs to be like ASAP. But I think that it was unnecessary globe hopping.
Yeah. What'd you think about like her power when she finally, eventually used that? I thought it looked cool enough.
I think it looks awesome. Yeah. I kind of wish she would have said, what is it? She says, Azeroth Metreon Synthos. I wish she'd said that before she did it, but oh well.
Dominus, whatever they said in the Omen.
Yeah, Azeroth Metreon Zinthos is what she says in the cartoons.
I did see the thing of Raven, because if I look down here a little further in my notes, it goes, she finds a pic of Raven. All this is connected, grown. That's what I'm...
Well, I mean, there's a cult that wants to prevent Trigon from coming into the Earth. That's what I picked up, because there are these people, there's this whole ceremony. I think it's still in episode 1 where the guy's like got the heart of some animal and he's getting ready to cut Raven's heart out, and she puts her dark self inside of his body and totally kills him as Dick Grayson's trying to rescue her from the other side of the door. Yeah, that's in episode 1, right?
I forget. They both.
I watched them back to back. Two episodes there. So I mean, they're making it clear that there's some organization who wants to kill her so that she can't be used to bring Trigon back. And then I would assume there's probably another organization, like maybe Brother Blood's organization, or they still haven't really revealed who the big villain is going to be other than Trigon. But there's probably some other organization that wants to capture her solely to bring Trigon back. So that's just what I'm guessing from knowing the character and where first story arcs of New Teen Titans went.
Yeah, the amnesia that started to wear thin on me pretty quick. I was just like, okay, please, can we get all over this? But Detroit is where the production design is free. You don't have to spend any money on it. It's just like, oh, we need some rundown abandoned buildings. Oh, we'll just go down the street. We don't even have to have permits. They'll just let us in. We'll just walk right in.
RoboCop filmed in Dallas, but that's a story for another day. Now, at the end of the first episode, we just get this slightest tease of Beast Boy.
Oh, before we do that, I do want to say that Raven did have this line. My mom says there's no such thing as monsters. I think she's wrong. And such a stupid, corny line. But
also, there's this thing, the Detroit Police Department, I would imagine, has like, I don't know, maybe over 1,000 police officers. I mean, it's a big city, right?
It's a big one. Sure.
I have no idea how many police officers they have, but I would think running into Dick Grayson would be, a statistical anomaly. But then I think one of the guys or one of the other police officers says, hey, why don't you go talk to her? I know you like kids or something like that. Yeah,
it was a very off-putting thing and stuff. And I wrote my notes here. It's just like Dick Grayson, who we were told cares about kids, quickly turns to not giving two craps about a kid.
And also, she's telling him her story, and he's sitting here in disbelief, like he thinks she's just making all this up. Meanwhile, we understand that he's probably fought like Clayface. He's probably fought Man-Bat. Like, he's probably fought Ra's al Ghul, a person who's thousands of years old, and every time he dies goes into a Lazarus pit and comes back to life. Like, why would he have such disbelief about Raven?
I don't believe this bull story.
Of all the cops in Detroit, like his former adopted father is best friends with an alien. Okay, so why is he not believing her? I don't get it. It's so weird. Like in any other kind of superhero story scenario, you always have to have like the disbeliever, but it's not Dick Grayson, the kid who grew up at Batman's side.
Here's the difference. It's Detroit. Detroit changes everything. If this was in Gotham, he'd be buying it hook, line, and sinker. But Detroit, he goes, this kind of stuff doesn't happen out here.
Like in Gotham City, she wouldn't even be the first demon child he had met that day.
Another one of these? Super.
Yeah.
But yeah, the episode 1 closes out in that electronics store, which, by the way, did you look at all the TVs having all the green and stuff on them? Oh, I mean, again, come on, people. It's a little much.
Now, first off, I was satisfied with the tiger. I knew that the tiger was going to be Beast Boy. The tiger was kind of green, but not that green. The tiger's CGI is not great, but I don't need it to be great. I just need it to convey the message.
Yeah.
Because I know some people I don't know, a couple of years ago, I heard people really complaining about a bad CGI deer on The Walking Dead. And I thought, of all the things you got to complain about, that deer needs to be further down your list.
Have you seen the story for Walking Dead? It's been garbage since mid-season 2. That's right. I said it, Walking Dead fans. We're never covering that show on this show ever.
Let's put it up for a vote on Patreon. But anyway, a nice little tease, I guess, of Beast Boy. But I was a little disappointed. I liked the transformation scene, by the way.
Yeah, it was kind of neat.
But I was a little disappointed that it was only his hair that was green. I kind of wanted them to give us a whole green Beast Boy.
Now, let me ask you this again. This goes to my ignorance. Because let's rewind the clock half a second here and talk about Starfire. Now, obviously, I guess just having an orange-skinned human being around is gonna raise some eyebrows. Is that because she's an alien, though, right?
Yeah, she's from Tamarand.
So being an alien,
she's orange. Yes, and they did not want to make her orange for the show.
I would have liked to see an orange lady. That's just
me too. Me too. I would have liked to have seen an orange lady, and I would have liked to have seen a green boy.
Why not? I mean, just here's the thing, man. And we've noticed this. I mean, like, take a look at Daredevil. And as serious as a show as that is, it continually leans into a lot of the comic booky aspects of the program, and they don't care. And honestly, the more they lean into that comic book stuff, the more we're like, yes, do that. That's what we want. And here they're just like, no one's gonna buy an orange girl and a green boy. It's not done.
And if she's not going to be orange, I am glad that they cast a person of color, though. You know what I mean? Because it could awfully quickly get into just a boring, 5 white people fighting crime kind of thing.
Yeah, and the hair's a good touch because that at least gives you some nice kind of contrast and make it feels a bit more like it. So that's I think that's good. I mean, I'm not
and
down
I wish
to the
the
actress
dress
or anything,
maybe at least throw us a bone and have the dress be orange. Have the dress be her colors or something. But in the comics and in the cartoons, Starfire is always dressed in a fashion that's intended to be tittillating.
Mm-hmm.
But here she
sometimes
dresses
very, very, very much so. Where it's like,
here,
wow, that's a bit
here
much.
In this show, they dress her like they asked for a hooker from Central Casting for Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Yeah, pretty close.
Especially as the show goes on, man. It's like I'm not a fan of her costuming.
Changing the fashion world.
But I do like the actress that plays her. Seems to be doing a solid job. Takes her work seriously. It's easier for me to take. I think her name's Anna Diop, if I've got her name right.
Okay.
It's easier for me to take her seriously as Starfire after the first 2 episodes than it is for me to take what's his face as Dick Grayson.
No, I think I can agree with that.
Brenton Thwaites plays Dick Grayson, and Ryan Potter is Beast Boy, and Ryan Potter makes a good Beast Boy too. I just wish he was green.
Yeah. So with episode 2, we open up on Hawk of Hawk and Dove being tortured.
Man, this whole Hawk and Dove episode was weird in some ways.
I had no idea they were
even.
I had no idea they were even going to be in this thing, and I was just like, "Oh, that's interesting. Look at that."
Hey, Hawk and Dove were members of the Titans for a while.
And all of a sudden, now it's not him, but it looks like Big Head from Silicon Valley. He's like the bean bad guy.
It does kind of look like him. And this is when Dick Grayson stabs a guy in his crotch. Once again, they're trying to turn Dick Grayson into the Punisher, which I'm not behind.
Yeah.
And maybe he's going to mellow out when he finally quits using the name Robin or something. But once again, unnecessarily brutal stuff out of Dick Grayson.
Yeah. And it's also weird that, the guy when he's torturing him is just like, and he goes back to it twice in the episode. all right, let's get them pants off. Like, he's got like a giant pair of scissors, and he's talking about getting pants off.
Genital mutilation is a plot point in a Teen Titans live action show called Titans. Once again, I thought that was gratuitous. Kind of interesting. I was not expecting Minka Kelly to show up in this show as Dove. And also, when they first said Hawk and Dove, there are incarnations where Hawk and Dove are both fellas. I thought there was an incarnation where Hawk and Dove were brother and sister, but here, well, I mean, there's a whole lot of Game of Thrones talk, by the way. Warner Brothers cross-promoting. Maybe they are brother and sister.
Hey, man.
Cersei and Jaime Lannister in it up. They even call her Khaleesi at one point. And
they
of course, do. Major spoiler for Game of Thrones, Khaleesi has been known to dip her toe in the incest pool.
I'll say this, though. I'm going to say this. This may be controversial. I think this lady's more attractive than the lady that plays Khaleesi. That's just
beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Different strokes for different folks, I guess.
They're both far more beautiful than I am. So what am I going to say?
They're just on par with me.
I like them.
She comes in. Dove comes in, saves the day. Also, while looking a bit like Lenny Kravitz, circa 1997.
A little bit of that going on, and the costumes, man. I like it. I like it that they're doing comic booky costumes because they don't tone down. Hawk and Dove's costumes look like they would fit in the Tick live action. Not the recent one, but I'm talking the Patrick Warburton.
Yeah,
Tick.
I'm not wild about Dove's, but Hawk's I dig. I like his because it's utilitarian. It's kind of realistic, real world sort of stuff. You also get obviously the same sort of slight Batman-y kind of vibes and everything, cowl wise and all that kind of jazz. It works, and they got a good-looking guy who's got that jawline in there that works just perfect with it.
He's done other work, man. I can't think of what he's done, but he's actually a pretty good actor. He's probably the Hawk and Dove. Those two that they've cast are probably the most recognizable of any of the cast so far.
They're veterans at 29.
Yeah, but I've always kind of liked Hawk and Dove because they're weird and they just don't make sense. I have no idea why Steve Ditko thought he needed to create those characters. But I've always kind of liked them. Never ever thought I was going to see him in live action, and here I am seeing him in live action. So I'm enjoying it. They don't really play up the hawkiness of Hawk and the doviness of Dove, but they get it across.
The hockey and doviness of it all.
The whole idea it came from, like Lyndon Baines Johnson and Richard Nixon, and there were people that were calling, they wanted a president who was a dove and not a hawk, and they called Johnson a war hawk who in dove's clothing or something like that. So the whole idea was Hawk in the comics, especially the early comics when they were brothers, maybe they were both male characters originally. Hawk. His solution was always he wanted to go in and solve everything with his fists. Dove always wanted to solve everything with negotiation, and the two of them always had to work together to be one normal, well-rounded person.
Yeah.
And they don't really dip into that too much here. Dove is just like a female Hawk, essentially. Not to mention, you've got Hawk, you've got Dove, you've got Raven, and you've got Robin. My son said they should just call them the Coop instead of the Titans.
Ooh, I tell you what, you should be hired by DC Marketing over there. That's
by the way, I shouldn't be letting my 11-year-old watch this show.
Probably. Listen, your kids have seen some pretty whacked out stuff from what I know of them. So
That's true.
Like, I honestly, this show's like a walk in the park for some of the things. She's like, oh yeah, we took them to see this film. I'm like, you what now? I saw that in movie theater, and I wouldn't take a child to that. So
yeah,
there's a little. The Leslie house runs a little bit differently than most others. I'll tell you that much.
And you get this little bit of backstory where Dove kind of had. She had emotion. She had feelings for Dick Grayson more so than Hawk, and then Dick Grayson left, and it's like Hawk was the runner-up prize or something. So Hawk
what a crock.
Yeah, and Hawk is first off, Hawk way more handsome. The actor that plays Hawk much more manly and handsome than the actor that plays
strapping
Dick
man that's just like I'm sitting there just going, I'd make out with this dude, and I'm a straight male. I'm looking at him going, that's a handsome fella right there. Take him over Dick Grayson any day of the week, boy.
Yeah, the only difference is, Hawk, I guess, was her brother and Dick Grayson wasn't. So she wanted somebody else and then had to settle for her brother. I'm still not sure that I'm right.
Yeah, you just got to sometimes you have to settle for a sibling. That's what they always say, right?
But anyway, hard to believe anybody picks Brendan Thwait over the guy that plays Hawk.
I like how Dove also wears a Superman T-shirt, which tells me that Soups has a clothing line, maybe? I don't know how that works.
You know, he's got sneakers, too.
Faster than a speeding bullet, my new Superman K's, or whatever they're going to be called.
Now, what did you think about the nuclear family? They're like the villain of the week this week on this one.
Yeah, man. I like to call... What did I write down? What did I call them in my notes here? Yeah, they're just bad. They're
like... They're like 80s creations from around 1985, the nuclear family. I'm trying to think who they're bad. Like, they weren't necessarily Teen Titans villains. I can't remember who they fought. But, yeah, they are kind of cool, very obscure. It's like, hey, why don't we just dig into the villains and pick something that's interesting and not something that's recognizable? So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah,
and
you come in with the thing, and the dad curses, and the wife goes, "Honey, language." Oh, sorry, kids. It's like the show's just so hardcore. They want you to know it. They're going to do it no matter what. They do not care.
And in the comics, they're androids, but here I don't know exactly what they are.
I'm so glad that they actually opened up that door, that cabinet in the kitchen there, because I'm looking at it going, why is there a keypad on this cabinet door in their kitchen? This doesn't make any sense. If they don't use... Okay, good, they used it.
And who plays Monopoly at breakfast?
That's another thing. I wrote that. I'm like, who plays Monopoly at breakfast? Exactly. Who plays Monopoly in the morning? It's just like, it's the longest game you could possibly play. Let's get this in before we go to school.
And then, you know, the nuclear family fight with Hawk and Dove. And one of them gets burned up. I think Dad of the nuclear family gets burned up, but the rest of the nuclear family managed to capture Rachel and they injure. Don't they put Dove in the hospital or something and take off?
Yeah, she gets messed up.
So that's kind of where we're at, man. The nuclear family managed to kidnap Rachel. We don't know. Raven is Rachel.
Yeah.
We don't know what they're going to do with her, where they're going. I have a feeling Starfire is probably going to show up and rescue her. But, you know, maybe I've also seen the next episode. Who knows?
But, yeah, those Kool-Aid kids, man, they're pretty crazy. But
shooting up with that, like, blue serum of some sort before they set out, too.
It's that Glacier Kool-Aid, man. You just put it in your system, and it makes you go straight kill some people, man. Now, I'll say this. I thought about possibly doing this as a Dinger Zone episode here. But they, as Dick's going out, which, by the way, no one talks about the big giant pelican case with the super, like, you know, double identity security thing that he brings along with him that's clearly got his costume in it.
Yeah.
No one bats an eye at that. She's just like, well, I guess that's his suitcase where he brings things. And first of all, you're not fitting that big giant thing plus the other thing all in that little Porsche. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't buy it. And her sitting in there? Not going to happen. But Dick goes to get some pizza, and she just goes, as long as there's no pineapple on it. And he goes, well, what are you thinking? I'm stupid or something? What are your thoughts on pineapple pizza, Bruce?
Not a fan.
Not a fan. So you think pineapple has no place in a pizza?
I have eaten it. It's not the worst thing ever, but it's not a choice I would make. It would be me dealing with a choice someone else had made.
I could do like a pineapple and ham maybe once every 10 years. Just as something that's like, oh, well, that's a little different. You got your salty and your sweet. It's a little bit of a thing. To make it a regular thing, no thank you.
Yep.
But it's a neat it's just like the same thing of you ever had a taco pizza?
Yeah, those are good, but it's not what if I say I could go for some pizza and somebody brings out a taco pizza, it's a good thing to eat, but not what I was thinking.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like you don't open it up and just go, exactly what I thought in my mind. Pizza.
Or like those
pizza.
white chicken pizzas, you know, where they don't have any tomato sauce and it's got like white cheese of some sort and they use olive oil. And,
I honestly,
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I'll do those more often than you would think. I'll do those maybe 4 times a year, just as something that's very different. But I'm a big pizza guy. I like a lot of pizza.
Yeah,
so.
and I like that, but I don't want to get that like as a surprise.
That's
like
not your default.
If somebody says, hey, why don't we order a pizza and watch a movie? And then the pizza shows up and it's the white chicken pizza with no sauce. You know, I'm not that I'm not going to eat it. It's just, I didn't know that's what you meant.
Now, so they go through all of this stuff, and I really hate how Dick does not... he keeps trying to pigeonhole himself in. You ever met these people in real life? They're the people that are just like, oh, I don't do this, or I'm not good at this sort of stuff. And it's like, you're not even trying. You don't want to, you're not gonna, and therefore you say, well, I'm not good at that. It's not that you're not good at it. It's just you don't want to do it, you know? And he's shirking responsibility. And overall, his character so far within these 2 episodes is really making me think this. This show makes Batman out to be absolutely horrible. Because he has not, clearly at this point, if this is what Robin is doing, he has not shown, he has not brought young Master Dick up in the proper way, He hasn't, trained him to be a good vigilante superhero, however you'd like to phrase it.
And it's a weird way where not only has he not trained him how to do it right, but he's also not been bad enough to make him want to do the exact opposite either. You know what I mean? It's like this whole weird thing where I would expect him to either want to be like Batman or to be the opposite. That's why I love Dick Grayson, as he can fight as good as Batman, but he's got a more positive outlook on the world. This Dick Grayson is like, it's almost like maybe Batman wasn't hard enough on him. You know what I mean? It's like he's a petulant child.
Yeah, he is. He's a spoiled little brat that's just like, well, I wanted to go beat people up, and this man's not letting me go beat people because I think it's good for me to do. And I'm like, dude,
hey,
that's
listen.
who you're supposed to be.
He's pissed off that a billionaire adopted him when his parents died.
Oh, what a horrible life you must lead. You had to, you were sleeping in the back with the elephants and, I'm sure you used dung as your pillow, my man. And you're like, oh, no, I got taken in by this wealthy billionaire who, made me like the coolest kid in the world. And come on, dude, what
it's like the 21-year-old that thinks he has it worse than someone his age had it during World War I because he has to worry about net neutrality, and the guy in World War I only had to worry about a war.
Exactly.
You kind of run across those types.
Look, man, you don't know what I've had to deal with. I have to, I only got the Netflix account where one person can be logged in at a time.
You don't know how awful it is getting adopted by a billionaire. You're so lucky you grew up middle class.
Ugh. You trust me. You don't want this. I'm like, oh, shut up.
Hey, nice Porsche you got there. I earned that Porsche. You wouldn't give it to me.
It's mine, you big old jerk.
I worked every weekend for that Porsche.
But again, like Batman, like this horrible Batman that I would surmise exists at this point, he tries to pay off Hawk and Dove, just gives them from looking at those 2 stacks, I'm gonna guess it's about $5,000, and just goes
it would have been enough to get me to do it.
I'm like, ooh, all right, I got a 4K TV right here. That's 85 inches worth, boy.
All right,
this is gonna look pretty good. And how do I take care of the kid? You put him in front of that 85-inch television. Watch this. We'll be back after fighting crime or whatever. Shut up. Just don't let your demon, kill people.
But yeah, nothing here makes sense about the characterization I'm seeing of Dick Grayson. This doesn't seem like the Dick Grayson I know from the comics. It also doesn't seem like what I would expect a person who lost his family in a tragic accident, the way he would treat someone who's also lost her parents.
It doesn't make any sense. It's like he really would be the most empathetic to that person, going, yes, I went through this exact same thing. And if he would have, if we would have Batman here as a good, moral barometer for, what to be, he would sit back and go look, Bruce brought me in and did this great stuff. I need to go and then pay that forward and help this young person who like me was in a bit of a bind and needed, some help out of this stuff. And she obviously has some special powers and whatnot. I need to train her like Bruce trained me. So, it's just but that doesn't exist.
And there's also another problem, where we know that Warner Brothers gives shows very strict lists on who they can and cannot use in their shows. Mm-hmm. And that kind of messes this up for me, because I think the very first call Dick Grayson makes when he's got to deal with Rachel is to Barbara Gordon. And I think if Dick Grayson goes and talks to Barbara Gordon, this turns out a whole lot better than it did talking to Hawk and Dove.
Yeah, or Alfred for that matter. Which again, Alfred, you don't talk to Batman. What gives?
Well, he did say he got the money from Alfred.
That's true. because I can't do it because I'm a
I hate
Detroit
Batman,
policeman.
but I like Alfred. Alfred gives me Batman's money.
They let him, but let me ask you this too, because again, he's based in Detroit and everything, and like from what they said, he sounds like he's a pretty new guy there for the most part. How is he just allowed to go hither, there, and everywhere? Zero supervision. You have zero jurisdiction in there. Do they just give you time off? Or, I mean, I don't understand how any of this works.
Apparently, Adam, when you're a billionaire's son, you can do things that the rest of us can't.
I guess so.
Even if you're a billionaire's adopted son, you can do things the rest of us can't.
Also,
I think that's a pretty simple.
Yeah, I do want to talk about how Hawk gives Dove like the worst anniversary gift ever, which is chores. Hey, by the way, I've got you a pigeon coop that I've kept up top like Michael, Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson, yeah.
And so what you need to do now, instead of living the life that you normally do, you need to come up here several times a day and mess around with these here birds. So I don't like that. Giving a pet to someone as a gift, or several pets in this particular case, it seems mean. I'm like, I don't want that. I got my life going here, and I don't need it uprooted by you giving me a bunch of flying fowl to go and take care of all day long. I don't need this. I'm trying to fight crime. Sure, my name is Dove and Wings and all that bull crap, but come on, dude. Don't give me extra work. I don't need it.
And let's just call it like we see it. Is there really any difference between a dove and a pigeon?
No. And by the way, they are all just rats with wings. I like when I went to New York for the Preacher premiere and everything. I'd walked around. I didn't have a hotel room, so there was no place that I could go back to. So when I was just tired, I sat on a curb. And I watched like 4 pigeons basically fight club it out for a piece of bread. And they're just disgusting animals that will claw after any and everything that is just garbage. They're filthy. They're filthy birds.
And why hasn't there been a superhero called the Seagull?
Ooh, he comes he swoops in. Yeah, swoops in, gathers some people up or something. I like that.
Yeah, the Seagull, man. He only fights crime at the beach. He's like Baywatch.
But that family comes in, they steal Raven away, but get this, Bruce. At the end of the episode, we see a crow or a raven or whatever the heck it is, but if there's anything that we've learned on this show in our last 5 years is that means somebody's getting some makeup and coming back from the dead, boy.
Oh, I like the idea that Raven was the original version of the crow.
I would watch that movie. I'd watch that. It'd be way better. Trust me, it'll be better than the Crow, whatever the next stupid thing we have to do come next Halloween. Boy, am I not looking forward to that. But you know what?
I've got a question for you.
Oh, yes.
Do you have any idea how this show could possibly relate to Sylvester Stallone?
Well, that's a great question, Bruce, and I'm glad you asked it, and I happen to have a prepared statement prepared by one Sean Keenan.
Huh.
Larnell Stovall is a stunt coordinator on Titans, the hardest job on this entire show, considering that the main cast has never done anything, ever. I imagine Larnell Stovall has this cast lined up, teaching the kid actors who play the Titans the basic of stage combat, and he asks the question, has anyone here ever been in a fight? Then the kid who plays Beast Boy says, you mean like in a Twitter flame war? No, I don't mean like in a Twitter flame war, yells Darnell. Collectively, the Titans grab their ears and fall to the ground. Mary's handsome husband, Joseph, we've got a long way to go. Then he scratches his head and looks down at his clipboard. Larnell Stovall has his work cut out for him, but at least he has experience to pull from. His first movie credit is Jet Li's 2001 movie, The One. And since Larnell Stovall is a big black dude, I'm guessing he wasn't Jet Li's stunt double. But man, that would be awesome. He has 114 credits, including work on giant movies like Captain America Civil War, Green Lantern, and the Hunger Games movies. But I like to think that when he's trying to teach kids on Titans how to fight, he references movie he's worked on that no one's heard of. And everyone gathers around and he gathers everyone around and says, all right, everyone, take a knee. You know, when we were working on stunts on male booty, We knew we had something special. When we were in the thick of Roadhouse 2 last call, we thought there'd be no better stunt team. But when I look around this room, you guys make the stunt team on Afro Ninja look like the Mortal Kombat TV series stunt team. You touch my heart more than I touched people's pancakes when I worked at the International House of Pancakes. People say, Larnell, that's not hygienic. And I would say, the only man who tells Larnell what to do is Larnell. And that's why I got fired from the International House of Pancakes. Larnell Stovall also worked with a man who touched plenty of pancakes, which is a euphemism for ladies' butts. That man is Sylvester Stallone. And these two gentlemen worked together in a movie called Escape Plan, where Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger escape a prison. And Stallone liked the idea so much he's making another escape plan where he has to escape another prison. You know, at some point, you need to realize that the problem is you. There you have it, HMPers, this week's Stallone connection to stunt coordinator Larnell Stovall. Now, Hawk and Dove, let's review the first 2 episodes of Titans so we can get back to watching more of the terrific programming that DC Direct has to offer, and everyone should subscribe. That sounds really specific.
That sounds fishy.
Little fishy. I don't like it. Bruce, here on Hero Movie Podcast, we have our own patented Robin rating system. Where does the first 2 episodes of Titans land for you?
It's not a good show, but I still am compelled to watch it. I'm curious. I know when the next episode's coming out and watch it the first chance I get, but not because it's good. It's a difficult thing for me to explain. Like Gotham is not a good show, but it's crazy and it's wacky, and I just don't know what they're going to go do next, and that's why I watch that. This isn't really that crazy or wacky, but I am always curious about where they're going with this and what's going to happen next. Episode 4, when the Doom Patrol shows up, is the best of the episodes so far, and it's definitely worth people sticking it out to. And you know what? You don't want to watch the first 3 episodes and you want to just go straight to the Doom Patrol episode. You'll probably like that too. So I'm going to give this a weird Damian Wayne that's like, I enjoy watching it, but I can't tell you why, and I won't argue with you if you say it's awful and that sort of thing, but I still kind of like it. Damian Wayne, Weird Wayne. Yeah,
I think I'm in that same boat. It's not really great. But it's not atrociously bad either. Sure,
it's different from anything out there. It's
true.
Definitely different.
Yeah, you're not looking at your regular Berlanti verse of superheroes and stuff like that, and you're not looking at the Marvel Netflix stuff. But if it's to resemble anything, it's pretty close to that one in comparison wise. It's not awful, but it's not great. I feel like I'm going to wait till most of it is out and then maybe, kind of just binge it all to kind of get the heap of it. Or I'm just going to let you do it and really report to me if indeed it's going to be worth me, dropping $7 at the end of this bad boy to, kind of shuffle them all in there. I don't know. Depends on what Keenan thinks of this thing. He did watch all the episodes despite him not being here.
Yeah, I think you got to watch the Doom Patrol episode, and then you'll know if you want to keep going at him.
Okay, so that may be the litmus test for me. So we'll take a look at that, and we hope you guys will check that out too. And again, that is on DC Direct, and Sean says that you should go and get that. Why? Who's to say? Next week, we're going to be doing something that's a little bit kind of similar, but yet a little bit different. And guess what, Bruce? Has a little bit of controversy behind it. Ooh,
what are we doing? I don't even know what we're doing.
You don't even remember, though we share a calendar where it's listed there every week. We're actually going to be doing the first couple episodes. I don't know how many. We really haven't decided yet. Of Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Or it's not. It's just Sabrina. Yeah. It's just Sabrina, isn't it? What the heck's it called?
It's The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
There you go. I just call it Sabrina the Teenage Witch on account of that's the Melissa Joan Hart show that was on the television years ago. And that my little sister
I will
loved.
Be making comparisons.
Oh, good. And, but we better do it quick because apparently the Church of Satan is suing or wanting to sue Netflix. But we'll talk about that next week. In the meantime, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
Hey, I'm just wanting people to remember that Dragon Blinder, the Lump Adventures Omnibus, I have my own digital omnibus available for purchase at Amazon.com. Look for Dragon Blinder. It's the complete Lump Adventures, 3 books for the price of 1, available digital only right now, available from Amazon only right now, but go to Amazon.com, Amazon.uk, etc., And check out Dragon Blinder, the only book named Dragon Blinder in all of Amazon.
Very nice. And, of course, over at The Film Find, at thefilmfind.com, we got a lot of new release reviews, as always. Going to be reviewing the new Grinch movie, as well as The Girl in the Spider's Web, the movie Bodied, which is pretty much like 8 Mile meets Bloodsport.
Ooh.
And a couple other new things. I'm going to see Overlord. I'm going to be seeing Overlord and a couple other things. So check out The Film Find, man, where I review tons of movies. I'm at like 85 right now for 2018 movies, which is a low number, really, believe it or not. My highest number for all time is 150, and that was like 2 years ago. I'm not going to hit 150 this year. It's just not going to happen. But I will hit over 100. So if you want to know what movies you should be seeing and which ones you should be avoiding, check out thefilmfind.com. We really appreciate that. That is it, everybody. Join us next week when we're talking about the Sabrina from Netflix. For the absent Sean Keenan, Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Portrais. Stay super, everybody.
Goodbye, Marty and Edie.
Papa loves mambo. Mama loves mambo. Look at him sway with it, getting so gay with it, shouting ole with it, wow. Papa loves mambo.
Papa loves mambo.
Mama loves mambo.
Mama loves mambo.
Papa does great with it, swings like a gate with it. He loses weight with it. Now he goes to, she goes fro. He goes fast, she goes slow. He goes left, she goes right.
Papa's looking for mama, but mama is nowhere in sight.
Papa loves mambo. Mama loves mambo. Having their fling again, younger than spring again, feeling that zing again, wow. Papa loves mambo.
Papa loves mambo.
Mama loves mambo.
Mama loves mambo.
Don't play the rumba and don't play the samba, 'cause Papa loves mambo tonight.
Papa loves mambo. Mama loves mambo. Papa loves mambo. Mama loves mambo.
He goes to, she goes fro. He goes fast, she goes slow. He goes left, she goes right.
Papa's looking for mama, but mama is nowhere in sight.
Papa loves mambo.
Papa loves mambo.
Mama loves mambo.
Mama loves mambo.
Having their fling again, younger than spring again, feeling that zing again, wow.
Papa loves mambo.
Mambo, papa.
Mama loves mambo.
Mambo, mama. Don't play the rumba and don't play the samba, 'cause Papa loves the mambo tonight.